Excellent, sir. Okay, we are recording, so you're welcome to commence at any time.
Thank you, Wayne. Good evening and welcome to the May 6, 2020 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Wayne, we're going to turn to you and say the Pledge of Allegiance because that's the only flag I see. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. The next item on our agenda is attendance. Mr. Wayne, will you help us with that?
Yes. Mr. Papa?
Present.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Mundy?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Present.
Ms. Campins?
Present.
And if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Campins, welcome to your first BZA meeting. We're very glad to have you here with us, and thank you for serving your community.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Very good. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the April 1st, 2020 meeting minutes. Ms. Campins, you probably will refrain from this as you were not attending that meeting.
Okay.
For the rest of the group, is there any discussion about the meeting, the minutes that were submitted to you?
Yeah, I just got a notice from Janice earlier today or something. She needs for me to go review a few items and make some corrections. Can we put it off till next month? Is that a problem?
I am amendable to that. Any other discussion amongst the group? Any other corrections that need to be made?
I do want to note, is that focused on?
Plan Commission or BZA?
Ooh, I'm sorry.
You're a man of many hats.
My bad. It might be Plan Commission.
Yeah.
Is that what it is, Chrissy?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I'll quit mumbling, maybe. All right, never mind.
Very good. If there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we delay the approval of minutes until, oh, I'm sorry. I'm make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We'll do a roll call vote for this, Wayne, if that's okay.
Yes, we'll take care of that.
Is this for 2 different months?
No, Mr. Papa, good question. We have not seen, we've been busy, but we have not seen the December 1st meeting minutes or the December meeting minutes. So we're just doing the April, the last month's meeting minutes.
Okay.
So ready for the roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
Me?
Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Yes. Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
Ms. Campins? Well, actually, she would abstain, so very good.
Correct.
Perfect. Very good. The minutes are approved. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the withdrawal request for petition number 2020-04-DSV by Mr. Donner and Mr. Donner's representative. I would note that because this petition was on the agenda, we need to have a formal motion to accept that withdrawal. Is there any discussion amongst the group about that?
Mr. Chair, before we jump into that, I do want to pause for a moment. We do,
Certainly.
for the purposes of having an electronic meeting, we do want to create the opportunity and fulfill the opportunity of anybody who's in the audience this evening who would like their attendance known. So feel free to raise your hand and we'll read your name for the record and make a note of it in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. DeLong.
Bowman, Sally Zalonis, Kristen Nestor. I see those 3 hands raised. Very good. We will note those in the minutes. Mr. Chair, please continue with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. DeLong.
Hey, John and Wayne, I discussed this earlier. I had a couple of comments were kind of basically related to this, but more or less general. I don't know if we should do that now or what do you want to there's a couple comments about this process that I wanted to make, and I don't know if that'd be the time now or later or never.
Wayne, do you have a view of how many attendees we have right now?
You have a total of 8 attendees. And Gwen Doyle and Barry, no last name, also has their hand raised.
Mr. Jones, I'm of the impression that your comments are directed towards articulating and explaining the process that we go through and the vetting that goes through these things. My concern is that I think your message is probably well thought out, but I'm not sure we have the appropriate audience here to hear that message.
It might fall on deaf ears at this point.
Yeah,
Not so much deaf ears, a lack of ears.
correct.
Okay, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. So in front of us is we have a withdrawal request for the docket number 202004-DSV for Mr. Donner and his representative. As I mentioned, this was on the agenda, so we do need to have a formal motion to accept the withdrawal request. Is there any discussion?
moved.
Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I would move approval of the withdrawal request. There's no discussion.
Thank you. Mr. Mundy, were you the second?
Yes, I guess.
If not, was somebody the second?
But I did second it.
Thank you. So once again, we are approving the withdrawal request. Wayne, I will turn, the motion is to approve the withdrawal request. Wayne, I will turn this over to you for a roll call vote.
Yes, Mr. Papa,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes,
Mr. Mundy,
Yes,
Ms. Campins.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is continuance requests. And as we only have one other item on our agenda, a new business item, I'm assuming Mr. Nestor would like to move forward. But if not, please speak now or raise your hand to Mr. DeLong.
With
Seeing
no,
no,
I say with
Go ahead,
no
Wayne.
comments, we can, my next step would be to elevate Kristen Nestor to panelist when you're ready.
okay, let's move on to new business then, which brings us to docket number 2020-10-DSV for 720 West Pine Street. Wayne, will you please allow Mr. Nestor to join our conversation?
Yes, Kristen Nestor is being
Mrs. Nestor, sorry.
repositioned to be a panelist. I think there'll be a brief pause here.
Yes, can you guys hear us?
We
Excellent.
can.
Perfect. You have myself and my husband, Alex.
Hi.
Very good. So in front of us, we have a petition for a required side yard setback and a rear yard setback. Would you please, in your words, describe to us what you're doing and why we need these setbacks?
Certainly. Sure. So behind our house, we are trying to put a carport. We have off-street parking, but we're trying to put some covering for our car. And due to the location of it, we would fall underneath the 15-foot minimum aggregate side yard setback. So we're reaching a variance for that, as well as a rear yard setback because we want a 20-foot length concrete pad for the carport itself.
Very good. And why does the carport, the off-street parking you have currently, is this where the carport's going to be located?
Correct.
And can you articulate why it needs to be in this particular location? We've got the plans in front of us that you submitted. It looks like you're constrained on space. But in your words, could you kind of describe why it needs to be in this particular location?
Sure. So we are constrained on space. It's a smaller lot, and we're trying to put it in this location specifically because, you know, in keeping with like the essentially the flow of the alleyway and the lot itself. So this already is designated as the off-street parking. So we're trying to, you know, make as little changes as possible to the overall arrangement. Additionally, putting it here will give us better use of the middle part of our rear yard. So that way we can use that for more grass and essentially just improves the aesthetics and the property itself.
Very good. And could you describe the aesthetics of the project? what it's going to look like?
Certainly. So the rear yard is about 40 foot wide. Where as it is, there's a concrete, somewhat of a trapezoid in the middle, and then it's a gravel location on the right hand side. The previous owner ripped out a garden and put in just gravel in terms of just a parking spot. So we're trying to remove that gravel since it's we don't really like it. We don't we like more of the garden and the grass. And that sort of layout for the backyard. So removing the trapezoidal concrete, removing the gravel, putting a nice clean slab, and then matching a carport to the styling of our house as well as the styling of our neighbors' houses, we think will be just a better arrangement for the backyard and more pleasing for the alleyway.
And what are the dimensions of the carport?
It's going to be 12 foot by 20 foot, 12 foot by 20.
Okay, so it's 12 feet. That can only really hold one car. Is that correct?
Correct. There's if we would do 2 cars in the back, we'd have to rip out a peach tree that we really love. So trying to maintain the backyard as much as we can.
Yeah.
Very
we're trying to maximize the function of our backyard while also increasing green space.
Very, very good. Fellow board members, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I'm kind of just running through the math, getting ready to kind of figure out the actual square footage of the house. Checking the dimensions of the lot's only 5,260 square feet. And if the information in the package is correct, the house is, oh, I lost that. 2736.
So that, the square footage of the house is 1776.
So what's the 2736 number?
I'm not sure. I think that might be like,
Wayne, you got any?
Wayne, he's referring to in the analysis section, it's the first sentence.
I would believe that's covering the entire hard surfacing. You have, the property is improved with a patio, the footprint of the home, as well as it's cited as a concrete driveway. It may not be concrete anymore, so to speak, but I think the dimensions of that offering is captured based upon what's on the site plan.
So I guess that's my first concern is just the amount of lot coverage. And then second, I tried to drive up that alley this afternoon, and it's, I had to back out, and I had to carefully back out. It just doesn't seem like when we start reducing setbacks off that rear property line, there's not enough room to maneuver anything into anything.
I have a similar concern. I did drive the alley and it's very narrow. And the 12 feet represents the width. Is that correct, Mr. Nestor?
correct. The 12 foot is the width of the carport.
And there'll be a post at each of the two rear corners that are 12 feet apart.
No. So in order to kind of to both of those points in terms of like the turning ability, the plan is to offset those rear fence posts in order to not encroach upon the alley, and ultimately to maximize the setback from the rear for those reasons.
Well, the distance between the two posts, which you must avoid when you're pulling in, that's, I guess, the distance I was asking about.
Correct. So the two posts on the outside will be, between 11 and 12 feet apart. Correct.
Okay, and is it three foot off of the property line?
We're requesting a 4 foot rear yard.
4 feet. Okay, yeah. Well, I noticed you have a neighbor that has a carport, which looks very attractive, but it also has a very small car in it.
Yep.
An SUV, you might as well give up. The turning radius, I don't believe I could drive any of maybe my old miniature truck I could drive in and make a turn into that space, but it will be very difficult. So I hope you drive a small car if it's approved.
Correct. My wife and I, we have we drive a Toyota Corolla. So.
Are you currently using that space to park cars?
We do sometimes. Right now, we're currently using it. We had a fence fall down. We're hoping to update that since we moved in about 1.5 years ago and the fence was in rough shape. So right now we are using it for some yard workspace, but yes, we normally do.
I'm also looking at your survey report. Once again, this might be a question back to Wayne. It says that there's that track 2 out front, which is marked as being the center line of Pine Street. So is Pine Street not a dedicated street to the town?
Pine Street is a public street. Certainly when this area was laid out, and I don't have the date of the platting, certainly it was very common and very much occurred with great repetitiveness in county and unincorporated areas for the center line for a property to be platted from the center line of the road, and then the road then conveyed back to the municipality in a different transaction.
So this gets back to my original question. So in reality, the lot's only 112 by 40.
Correct.
I mean, depending on what numbers you use, it's if you take the 2736 that's in the document, we're like 61% lot coverage.
Well, I can tell you that the 2,700 is the total square foot under roof, so that's both floors.
Okay.
I don't have the number offhand. Default to Chrissy here to
That's all right.
look into
So
the
even
file.
if we start with the 1776, then there's an outdoor patio of 200 feet, and then they're adding 240 square feet. We're at 50% lot coverage.
Let's look into the file. I know that partly you have the carport going over existing impervious surface.
Right.
So, Mr. Jones, can you repeat what you think the lot size is?
Now, if you look back there on that survey report, it shows the lot 7 being 112 by 40, which is 4,480 square feet. And then it shows out there in front the track 2 that's 19.5 feet by 40. But if I'm reading the information correct and what Wayne just said, when this parcel was originally platted, the plat started at the center line of Pine Street. So that would have made the full lot 131 feet deep. Then the first 19.5 feet was dedicated back to the city to start the beginning of the actual lot. And then it says there's a 50-foot right-of-way for the street. So if both neighbors dedicated 19.5 feet, let's say it's 20, there's 40 feet allocated for a 30-foot street. The right-of-way extends back another 5 feet more or less, which basically provides your area for utilities, et cetera, and that's fine and good. But the actual lot is only 40 by 112. Then from that, you have the square footage of the house, the patio, and now we're adding the 240 square feet of covered carport.
So I generally have a policy of not doing math in public.
I understand.
If you
I
take
generally
40,
have a habit of checking math that's provided to me in public, so it's, you know.
if you take 40 times 112, I believe you get 4,480.
Correct.
Okay. Earlier in our document, we have the parcel as 0.13 acres, and according to Google, 0.13 acres is 5,662 square feet.
Correct.
So
did
I'm not
that
sure
math
which
too.
one of those pieces of information is accurate.
Well,
Well,
and
I think the survey report would be correct.
yeah, and the oddity here is the county assessor assesses this property at 0.13 acres. So that was the numbers that were run were based upon the property record card.
Well,
That's a difference of
Yes.
approximately 1,200 feet.
Yes. So it would appear that there's we need to look into the lot coverage issue.
Correct, but we have a stamped survey drawing in front of us.
Yes. So that should be the.
So, you know, God love the county surveyor, but
Larry, is your question here is the amount of lot coverage with the carport?
correct. Just using the standards we've applied consistently. There is the footprint of the house that would count. The patio counts. And now we're adding a 240 square foot detached garage or doesn't matter. It would still be impervious surface. It's carport, but from a drainage standpoint, from a lot coverage standpoint, it's still 240 square feet of impervious surface.
So
Mr. and Mrs. Nestor, what is on that, the 12 by 20 square of, or rectangle of land right now? Is that paved or is it gravel? What is there now?
It's partially paved, partially gravel. We are hoping to actually take out a lot of the other paved surfaces that don't make sense in the backyard to add more permeable surfaces because we want to make our space as green as possible. So we are hoping to take out some of the other patio space as well as this kind of oddly shaped piece of concrete that goes through the entire backyard for what looks like a fire pit, but it's kind of an oddly shaped concrete section. So right now it's partially concrete, partially gravel for the area that would be the carport. We're hoping to put in a slab of concrete, but take out concrete from other areas of the backyard to make it more aesthetically pleasing and more environmentally friendly.
right in the document that I provided, I believe there's like a computer SketchUp where it shows the area with like the trapezoidal piece removed and then kind of rounded out on the patio area. Overall, I guess my confusion overall we're removing concrete from the backyard because we're removing the trapezoidal area. So we'll, while we are adding some and extending the concrete surface to cover the carport area, removing that trapezoidal piece as well as rounding out the edge on the patio. When I did the math and measured it out, it was a net loss, I guess, of surface area.
Well, and I'll jump in here. I mean, when this petition was first filed, the site plan was not a part of that. It was the calculations were run based upon the property record card. It would appear that the property record card is assuming ownership of that tract 2, and I mean, the folks here, the petitioner here may want to have a conversation with the county about maybe some over-assessment, but historically, this board has not, while it may have been supportive of trading of impervious surfaces for other impervious surfaces, it's only done that in the form of a variance when that variance has been properly noticed and advertised. So we're going to run the numbers here to see what that lot coverage is, and if it's over the 35% plus the 2% bump bonus, I should say, it would appear that this variance request that's in front of you is not ripe for processing. I don't know if Darren, if you have anything specific to offer on that point.
Nothing in addition to that. That was my thought. We need to figure out what that coverage is, and if it needs a variance, then they'll need to request that.
And as we're discussing that, then the secondary issue of the rear setback, especially when you're coming up to a 12-foot alley. You know, minimum parking standards is 20 feet for maneuvering vehicles around. We're back into the same issue that we brought up with the house on 4th Street. You know, we are creating a situation where to maneuver in and out of a structure, a typical size vehicle is going to need to, you know, trespass across the other side of that 12-foot alley. And, you know, it requires a, you know, adjoining or not an adjoining, but a nearby property owner to, I don't know, there's some specific term I'm looking for. I'm just struggling to figure out what it is.
Yeah, I drove the alley as well. And Mr. Jones, I would agree with you. I'm not interested in approving a petition that would force the property owner to have to trespass or enter someone else's property to leave their vehicle. But as I recall the alley, I'm not even sure they had that opportunity. It was kind of a fence over there. Like, I don't even think there's a chance for them to get into the other person's property because of the way the alley was built. But this may be all, I think what I'm hearing is that we don't have the full, no fault to the nesters. I don't think we have no fault to our petitioners. I don't think we have a full picture of what we're looking at. And I think that it would be more prudent of us to have a better understanding of exactly what the entire ask is before we have too much discussion on it.
It's fine.
Yeah, I believe there is a privacy fence directly across the alley, isn't there? The nesters could certainly answer that. It looked to me like that was directly across.
That's correct.
Which would prevent you from going any further than the fence.
That's correct. There is that privacy fence there, and you know, with that fence in place, we're still able to maneuver our vehicles into and out of the parking spot.
Do you back out of the alley?
I'm sorry?
Do you back out of the alley?
I can do either. I can back into the parking spot or I can pull front into the parking spot. Both are navigable. And I marked it out with cones for the location just to make sure I could do it.
I assume that the alley, I continued on past from the east to the west, that it goes up, it looks like someone has then improved the alley at the end and it wraps around their house. Is that still considered alley?
Yeah.
The concrete
Yes.
part of yes, still considered the alley. It's all shared space. So we use that to get in and out of the alley as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the house directly to the west, they've got, you know, the rear of their house is a 2-car garage that abuts the alley, roughly the same distance. And then down the alleyway, there's the carport that you mentioned. Similar, we're actually, you know, basing our plans off of that in terms of the distance sizing. And then there's 2 other garages along the alley.
So based on the calculations, it looks that the petition would be about 2% above the 35% lot coverage cap, depending on how much of that patio is coming out. And with the carport being installed over the existing concrete drive and over another portion of the patio. So without proper notice dealing with the exchange of pervious surface for other pervious surface, it looks like this petition will need to be renoticed and heard next month to include and encapsulate a lot coverage variance request. And again, I think this goes back to when the petition first came in, the calculations were based on the property record card. The site plan was turned in a little bit later. I'm not sure of the exact timing. And it looks like that new information didn't get screened against what was originally believed to be accurate, which was the property record card provided by the county.
That's fine, but it's still
Good catch,
the
Mr. Jones.
responsibility of, huh? I'm sorry.
I said
It's still
good
the
catch.
Well, Wayne, it's not your job to go vet that stuff. It's still the requirement of the responsibility of the petitioner to provide a full package when they submit this stuff.
Well, seems reasonable that you would use, if you're paying taxes on it, that it would be accurate, but
Really? Sorry. Nah, not the way taxes work.
Mr. Chad, we would typically go and ask for remonstration right now, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate, because I think this needs to get continued so that we can have a better picture of the full petition. Is it okay to entertain a motion to do that now?
I think it would be. I think sorry, just checking to see if I'm muted. I think
You're not,
you can do
we can hear you.
it. If you have anyone who wants to speak now, you can entertain it, or you can ask for the continuance now and address it all when you reconvene. Either way, that
turn over to my,
would have to be addressed. So
yeah,
with
yeah. So, fellow board members, I certainly want to have a full hearing, but I think we're going to have to hear this again. So I'm not necessarily interested in public comment at this point. We will certainly allow the public to speak on this, but I think it would be better if they could speak to the full petition, which we certainly don't have in front of us right now. Are you okay with that, fellow board members?
I am.
Yes.
With that, Mr. and Mrs. Nestor, so I think, I don't think there was any ill will here. I think what happened is between what the county has provided and then the surveyor has provided, I think what we have is some misinformation between the two of them. And it equates out to about 1,200 square feet, which certainly is significant. So what we're going to do, or what we need to do, is continue this petition to next month, which will be the June 3rd meeting?
Correct.
The June 3rd meeting. In the meantime, I think we're okay with I think we have the information to address the setbacks. I'm not sure. I think we may end up having a lot coverage issue as well, in addition to. Wayne, can you facilitate working with the petitioners to getting that included in this petition?
Yes, we will.
Thank you. In addition, I also want to make a comment that you will need to renotice because the petition is changing. You're going from a setbacks to a lot coverage as well as setbacks. I think you are. And we have made a special exception to the notification requirements. Wayne, can you address that briefly?
Yes, we certainly, with this petition tonight, and they have submitted notice, and they did that first class. And the reason staff suggested they think of that as an option, and certainly this is something the board is, at least the board leadership knew about. The Plan Commission has discussed this during this COVID-19 situation that is presented itself to the world, in order to help facilitate social distancing and cut down on interactions with postal carriers and the public. One of the ways to do that was to not require certified mail. And certainly, so tonight's hearing has been advertised via the newspaper and also provided by first-class mail. So a waiver would need to be of your rules of procedure to support the use of first-class mail is an appropriate conversation point for you to have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Long. I'd also note that the petitioner does have a sign in their yard due to some new technology we're using in the town that states that there is a petition for this particular property. So any neighbors should be able to see that as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With that, board members, are you amendable to waiving the certified mail and allowing first-class mail to continue? I feel it's a safety issue at this particular point, so I'm amendable to it, but I just want to make sure that we all agree on that.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
I have no objection.
Before the petitioners leave, can I get just one question of clarity? So looking at the various kind of rendering pieces put together, is the carport attached or comes up against the house or not? Does anybody else see what I'm looking at when I look at following the survey? There's a series of kind of 3D renderings.
Certainly.
So what's going on there?
Yeah, so the initial plan was to have the carport attached to the house.
Okay. Well, my point is, so once again, we don't like doing public math, but what my public math just came up with was that, let's assume the house sits 25 and a half feet back from what we are calling the lot line, lot 7. Even if you take let's say the 45 foot, whatever, you add that all up, from the rear of the house to the rear of the property should be approximately 30 feet. And if you're setting a carport that's 12 by 20, correct? That should put you 10 foot off the back property line if you so choose. Am I missing something?
I mean, the rear part of the house in the 3D rendering, if you're looking at it from the different angles, there's I'd say about a 20-foot wide section of the house that is roughly 30 feet from the alleyway. Then there's a 10-foot section of the house that comes back about 9 feet, which ultimately results in about 20 feet distance to the alley. Maybe 4 feet, something around there.
I guess once again, I'm really struggling with your survey then. Because what I'm seeing is, maybe I did this wrong.
I guess, is your question in regard to the rear yard setback or the lot coverage
Correct.
issue?
I'm trying to figure out the distance between the actual home and the rear property line.
It's about on one edge, it's about 7 feet. The next closest part is about 25 and a half foot, about 25 feet. The lot is at a bit of an angle. So, short of me going out there with a lead line, like it's kind of tough for me to exactly eyeball.
Mr. Jones, do you have any further comments on that?
Well, I'm just doing something here. Kind of just struggling with the survey.
Well, I think we're going to need clarification on the survey regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind.
So,
My point was, I was thinking there was some room that they could pull the carport up closer to the house and get away from the rear setback requirement. But I don't know. All right.
okay, very good. Mr. Chad, I think you're muted, but I think all we need is a motion to continue this to the June 3rd meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
With that in mind, I will entertain a motion to continue this.
I move that docket 2020-10-DSV, a request for design standard variance for setbacks be continued to the June meeting, and additional information being provided at that time with regard to lot coverage of the improvements on the lot.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those, actually, Wayne, we'll turn to you. Sorry, old habits.
Mr. Papa,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Ms. Campens.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Mr. and Mrs. Nestor, so we just want to make sure we have the full picture of what we're doing before we make an approval. So I think if you will work with Wayne, I think we can get this all taken care of and have a better picture and an understanding of what you're asking for and what is needed at the June 3rd meeting. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is other matters to be considered. Mr. DeLong?
Very briefly, on the 2019 SE 38, that petitioner actually indicated just today that the drainage easement has been recorded at the county. So that's, they're moving through their different due diligence items in that conversation. As far as Wildwood Designs, I do not have any specific update on that particular matter.
Very good. I would also like to note that we have some paperwork to sign collectively as a board. Specifically, I'm thinking about a negative findings of fact from 2 months ago. Wayne, how could we use the town in a social distancing way to facilitate signing of those documents?
Yes, what we can do is utilize the town Dropbox remote location in our parking lot, which is our town vehicle, and we'll work with different board members to cycle through to sign the paperwork in a social while paying attention to social distancing.
Okay. Is the group amenable to that? I'm just concerned that if we don't get these things signed, they're kind of stuck in limbo land.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
fine.
the obligation is that, I think what I'm asking you is that you'll have to stop by town hall sometime within the next few weeks.
I'm fine.
Yep. No
Good.
objection.
I'm
Ms.
fine.
Campens, I think you're off the hook. I don't think you have to sign anything just yet, but you will
Okay.
soon.
Thanks.
All right. Any other matters?
I just have a question. Maybe I missed this in some of the communications, but Laura Campens, I don't know, but is this a replacement for Julie Evinger?
You know, Wayne, do you want to go or you want me to go?
Well, I can summarize this. So Miss Evinger did resign last month, actually earlier this month. She moved out of the community or is moving out of the community here later this month and resigned from the Board of Zoning Appeals. Ms. Campens was sworn in yesterday by the mayor via a Zoom event and bringing her on board as of today for her first meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Steve, I probably should have mentioned it. Unfortunately, we didn't get to say goodbye to Julia in a formal way. She has certainly served our community well, and I'm thankful for her service. And I'm very thankful that Ms. Campens is here to take her place. And so I think we're keep moving forward with that. So, and if you know, Julia had her home for sale for a long time. And so I think it's a good closing of a chapter for her. And so welcome news for her.
Great. And let me know if you have any questions for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campus. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. I'm cautiously
Yes.
optimistic it will be sometime this summer.
Hopefully soon, yes. Yeah.
Any other matters?
Hey, once again, I'm sitting here doing my public math again. When we talked to the previous petitioners, their 3-foot setback, I think is based on where they're thinking they can set the columns for the carport and then cantilever the roof out over that. Because if I'm doing my math correct in public, they only have 21 feet back there for a 20-foot carport. And that's off the back of the house. They need to come with some better documentation for their ask. And Wayne, can you convey that?
Yes, we will talk to them about that. I mean, it is challenging for parties to rely on a surveyor's report, which is provided as a part of someone's closing documents typically, and is not a document that is specifically generated for a specific project.
No other matters. Wayne, please pass our gratitude on to the town, the IT staff, and everyone else for helping us put these meetings together. I know it's not as easy as or as typical what we're used to, but I certainly appreciate their efforts.
Pass along the words. Good
And
work. Thank you.
Wayne, you will alert us, or Chrissy will, as to when the documents are available for signing.
Yes. Yeah, we'll send out emails and work to manage each board member coming through, probably spacing everybody a day or two apart. We'll work through the details in email communications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Here.